Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone today, and thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I'm so excited to have you here with us, and I have an awesome guest. We're going to have so much fun. So, Jaycie, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're going to have so much fun.
I know, because Kat, your energy, your vibe is so similar to mine. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a blast.
Great. We're going to teach people how to run marathons and enjoy themselves for the day. That's what's coming out of this one. So anyway, as we jump in, Jaycie, do us a favor and tell us, who you are, what it is that you do, and what got you into that space.
Well, I am Jaycie Cormac, your storytelling rebel and a story coach. And I'm the host as well and founder of Cartwheels and Banana Peels, Funny Tales from Women Entrepreneurs. I help women entrepreneurs tell entertaining stories that get them their right dream clients, period. We all have those struggle to success stories, and we all know that, well, they're kind of a dime a dozen, really, to be honest. So I'm kind of staging a coup against them. But when you tell your zero to hero or struggle to success story, just make sure you find a way to tell it so it's entertaining and it will transform it. And then, of course, I'm all about having those back pocket stories. So you have these little stories that you can pull out at any given moment, and they're funny, they're entertaining. It makes people connect with you, start conversation, and hopefully, ultimately convert your right people. But how did I get here? Well, I've been on stage most of my life, or put people on stage most of my life, right? So, but I was the scared little girl that literally completely was paralyzed, deer in the headlights with fear when I was like 6 or 7 in a little tiny, in the classroom, first grade school play. And I couldn't say the 3 words I was supposed to say. Because if you know the 3 Billy Goats Gruff, then that, the little goats are trying to get across the bridge from the troll, right? And so I was the 3rd Billy Goat. And all I had to say was, let me pass. Couldn't. Fear. And I had a paper bag goat mask on my head. And I couldn't. I was terrified. Nothing would come out. I couldn't move. Tears are running down my cheeks. The teacher's trying to encourage me, and I never could say it. Now, about a year later, that's from then on out, I was on stage, and I've kind of never been off the stage. But
I love that. I forgot about the paper bag pieces that we used to have in school. I remember the Indian programs where that's what you had as the vest.
That's right. Oh my gosh, I forgot those. So, I've done so much. I've put so many people on stage. I taught dance for 20 something years. That was my first company. My dance studio I started that when I was a wee baby. I was only 18, but I actually started that in my parents' side yard. And then I built my studio and opened the physical doors just a year later. But, I've done so many things in regards to that. I've worked with authors all over the world, and it's all about connecting with people. And whether it's being a leader, which I've had so many of my former students and clients talk about how they're just better leaders because of what they learned from either being on stage in different capacities to just learning how to tell stories confidently. And so all of this eventually culminated to the point where I realized everybody was always entertained by my crazy, vivacious personality and the way that I tell stories. Oh, and I've led ghost tours, which people think's fun. That was at a historic hotel, which was a blast. I've seen a lot of stuff. But in all of that, I realized that people, one of the things they wanted from me was, well, how do I tell something? How can I be funny? How can I tell something entertaining and captivate somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, here we go. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I've become the storytelling rebel, kind of busting through the traditional concept of what story you're supposed to tell. And not only knowing what your stories are, but then how do you deliver it in a way that is actually going to be entertaining and connect with your people?
Oh, I love this so much. And I love storytelling rebel. Like, I love that it just goes against what society is used to hearing. And you know what's interesting too is, and I've talked about this, I feel like this has been a conversation that's come up a lot recently on the podcast, is learning how to connect with your potential clients and just your audience in general through storytelling and using personal moments as a way to connect with people. I really think that, especially after 2020, we hit this like need for human interaction, and not just a need for the interaction with each other, but a relatability piece. Like, so many of us were stifled and stuck in one area. And I know for introverts, you guys were like, yeah, it was amazing. But you still crave the conversation and you still crave that relatability. And as you're moving through your own journey and your own healing or your own growth, no matter where that is, business, personal, both, you need to be able to find people that understand who you are a little bit more than just being able to sell you some dream of you can make millions of dollars or you can close 20 clients in 10 days. Like all of these, I'm going to say it, crappy sales pitches for people. And we're realizing that more people are craving that connection piece. And the more that you're able to actually relate to people, the more that people are willing to give you a chance because they don't feel alone. There's that sense of support that's in that storytelling and that relatability piece that I feel like we were missing for quite a while. And it's like just now kind of starting to tumble forward.
And I think that there is the element of, so often we're told that we need the 0 to hero or the struggle to success, which is the same story technically. But, and so I just shared mine with you, right? I told you about how I was scared to death. I was petrified, and boom, then I ended up on stage forever, blah, blah. But I made it entertaining. And so often that's missed. It's and mind you, if your people are meant to connect with you because of the pain, and then you just bond over that and how you got to the success, okay, fine. But if you really want to connect with your people, show them who you are, which is what you just said, right? It's who you are. It might be me going squeak at the beginning because I'm goofy and funny and very, very playful and lighthearted all the time. And I mean, I can clearly be serious and lead the whole show, whatever, but we're going to have a damn good time while we're doing the serious stuff. And everybody around me knows that. So I can be the biggest organizer, be the leader, run the whole thing. I do have a tendency, kind of whatever organizations I'm in, I usually end up in a leadership role, probably because I'm not afraid to take that role. And if I drop the ball, I drop the ball. Oh, well, we fix it. But I have fun doing it. And so it makes people want, this is what they tell me, but they want to be around me because it's more enjoyable. And so they're willing to do the hard work because we still make it fun. So telling it in a way that connects to your people. You don't have to have as big of a personality as Kat and I do,
Okay.
but we are clearly extroverted, but being able to share who you are through the stories that you tell in the right way to connect with your people is vital. It's just freaking vital. Online, we no longer really want the baloney, the crappy sales pitches. We don't want the dude with his chest hair out because his shirt's partially gold chain and his big thick mustache selling us that used car. We don't want that unless it makes us laugh. Then maybe we'll consider it. But we want somebody that makes sense to us, that, as you said, Kat, we can relate to. They're down to earth. They meet us where we are, and we go, oh my gosh, I got to work with him or her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the way that you put that too. And it's bringing in the human element. I think that for so long, we were all taught, even though it's not written down anywhere, we were all taught that there is a specific way to go about business, right? Yeah. So there's a professionalism, you don't talk about this piece, you don't show fear if you are leading people, right? Because you're the boss, so they're all supposed to look up to you. And at the same time, when you can bring the human element into it, and one of my favorite people that I have learned from, that I love to talk about, is Brene Brown. Bringing in that shame, that guilt, that vulnerability piece where, like you said, even if you step in a leadership position, if you screw up, you screw up, like I own it, we'll fix it, is 10 times different. And a lot more people can relate to that and respect you for it versus, well, I don't know what happened. It's not my fault. It must be somebody else's. I guess everybody else is going to figure out how to do it. Right. Like it's the empowerment mentality versus the ego mentality, and being able to turn that ego off slightly, even if it's uncomfortable for you, but it shows other people that like, oh, okay, they can screw up. It's okay. Right. Oh, it's okay if this didn't go right, because we're going to find a solution. Like, you bring this wall down, even if it's part way, for other people to be like, hey, you know what? That actually was my fault. If I would have done this, that may have happened. Like, I feel like you allow more open communication. And while, yes, you can still have a degree of professionalism, you can still have a degree of how you share your stories, right? We don't need a trauma bond with everybody that's online and things like that. But there is a way to tell it to empower other people, get your message across, allow people to relate to you, and you still step into your power here, that other people see you for who you are and the courage that you provide that maybe they are hoping they can have.
And, this makes me think of something else too, that when people step into entrepreneurship, when they're newer at it, or maybe new to coaching or whatever, a lot of those people are still doing a full-time job, or at least a side gig or something somewhere, right? And too often they try to hide that. Like, oh, we wouldn't want anybody to know I do that. They won't think I'm as good as I am, or that I'm skilled, or that I'm professional, or whatever. Marie Forleo talks about that. She used to bartend until her business took off, right? And of course, she danced and so forth as well, was a professional dancer. Now, I've been an entrepreneur for 35 plus years, but I did go through an ugly divorce a few years back and dissolved a company that I had clients all over the world with because of that divorce. I didn't want to be partners with the ex-husband. So, I wasn't buying him out either. So I just dissolved it. Judge gave me control of it. I dissolved it. Bam, went on. Then I said, I wasn't ready to build anything new again. So I pulled back, did some, independent contracting, did some different, ghost wrote a book. I did some things. I led the ghost tours and managed this historic hotel for a little while. I did some different things, which I still had fun doing. But here's one that I have finally, just not all that long ago, said, why am I not telling people the other thing that I do? Because I freaking love doing it for some reason. I do Instacart. If you don't know what Instacart is, it's grocery shopping and delivery for people. But I love it. It works with my ADHD. It's a freaking checklist. I just love it. I know everybody at the store. They're my friends. We go in and have a good time. But what made me just think of that was you talking about owning your mistakes. And so they all know if I screw up, they're going to know it was me. And so here a few weeks back, I've got my arms full because I don't know if I'll ever give up Instacart because it's the physical labor and it gets me out from behind the computer. So I love it.
Yeah.
So my arms are full of stuff, including a glass bottle of sesame seed oil, which I dropped because, I had too much stuff on my arms, and it breaks and busts, glass goes everywhere, sesame seed oil everywhere, and all over my sneakers. So I'm like, excuse me, pardon me. And I go up front to self-check. And again, I know almost everybody that works there. And I said, hey, clean up on aisle 9, Jaycie made a mess. And so they all had a big giggle. And, of course, it was also an issue. It was right in the middle of the aisle. It was a safety issue, glass and slippery and all that. But when I got in my Jeep later, oh my God, I was like, I smell like a Chinese restaurant, y'all, because it was so strong in my car. So anyways, it is important. It's important to be vulnerable and let people see who we truly are. Because now, oh my God, she's been an entrepreneur forever. She's a storytelling rebel. She has a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Oh, she does Instacart? Huh. Why not? And I'm okay if I drop something. I'm busted all over the floor. So I had to clean it up. You guys let me go to the back and get the mop bucket. I'd have taken care of it. But anyway, so.
I love that. It's just funny, right? Because I think that for a lot of us, especially those coming out of the corporate world, we try to bring the corporate into running our business. And it's like, while yes, like you can still have who you are, if the persona that you're presenting is something that's completely out of your being, if it was just for your corporate job to begin with, then you're bringing that in, which is an element you don't enjoy, which is already going to put this daunting feeling on you as you continue to build. So now I have a question for you, because I guarantee you somebody is thinking this. So let's say, Jaycie, I am coming out of the corporate world and I'm new in the entrepreneurial space. All I know is how to be serious. I cut up with my friends, but that's completely separate from how I run my business. How do I even start getting into that? Because I don't want people to think I'm weird and all of a sudden I let all of my flags fly. But if I wanted to loosen up, how do I even begin to do that?
So you start out maybe with a little bit of networking, maybe with one person, and you tell something funny, I just did about the sesame seed oil, right? Now it takes practice you may know your story, but how you deliver it, there's pacing, there's body language, there's facial expressions, there's inflections of tone and pacing in your voice and your speech. So there's a lot of practice. I'm not saying you're going to magically just go, but just begin to share some different things that show a little bit more about you. Or did you notice I dropped the thing about me having a Jeep? You know what that means? People go, ooh, Jeep people are going to, oh, she has a Jeep. Does she have a duck up there? No, y'all, it's not a Wrangler, though I want one. But anyway, so it's a little bigger. It's a Grand Cherokee, but that connects with people. You learn how to put those things in there so it shows your personality. With practice, it becomes natural. It doesn't feel forced. So somebody else saying, oh, she said she has a Jeep, because no, they're expensive. They cost too much and they ride rough, y'all. Let's just be honest. But I still like her. I don't care. So it's just starting out small. Now, too often, and I don't know about you guys, but too often I have sat through a presentation or a workshop and the presenter tries to crack a joke, but it's kind of one of those, a banana, a tomato, and a donkey walked into a bar. I mean, if they tell that one funny, okay, but we don't want a knock joke. We want something that can get through to know and understand who you are. We want to feel you. Now, if you can tell a slap the knee, so hilarious, slapstick funny, traditional joke, but do it with your personality, cool, go for it. But comedians practice forever and a lot of times have writers. They don't always write their own. So telling a joke isn't really the goal here. It's about finding your little stories. And I call them back pocket stories, but finding those little stories and going, oh, that that if your friends would kind of laugh at it, if it's that story that you can't wait to tell your partner, your kids, your friends, whatever, it's one of those stories that concisely you learn to share because it shows who you are. And other people will go, oh my God. I told a spider story the other day, just in a brand new networking situation. And it was funny and she was cracking up and we bonded. But let me tell you, she came back and said to me, I would have been ended by that because it scared her. But yet we just had this moment and it was an icebreaker. She was brand new to me. So does that help?
No, it's fantastic. Now, let me ask you this. For anybody that's like, okay, you're saying have these back pocket stories. What if I, one, don't feel like I have any stories? Where do I start? Or two, I have so many stories, I don't even know which ones to share and what not to share. What would be your advice to those two people?
Wow, those are two really big questions. So the first one, if you think you don't have a story, well, I guarantee if I sat down and talked to you, I'd find your stories. We just have a conversation and I'll start going, oh my God, that's a story. There's one. There's one. And then you go, well, wait, how do I make that entertaining or somewhat funny? Chuckle worthy or, slapstick. You got to, hang on, I'm going to crash my car. It's so funny. So again, not everybody has, and you don't need to have the crazy big energy that I have. You don't need to have that. That's just me. That's just my personality. So you have to find your stories and anything that made you have a chuckle or that was shocking, like my spider story. Anyways, it was a spider and all of a sudden I was trying to trap it and release it from the house because I don't kill spiders. So the really concise version is that when I tried to trap it in something, I thought it was a he for some reason, she must have said, run babies, run. Because all of a sudden little babies jumped off and scurried.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like probably 10 or 15 of them. I'm like, oh no. Anyway, so it's fine. But so I was trying to get them too. I was like, come on, you can't live wrong. Anyway, so that was just a simple moment of me finally moving a box from my kitchen after moving to this house a couple months ago that I hadn't moved the box yet. And that was a story that then I can tell. It's an icebreaker. I can relate that to my business, but that takes practice and skill. How do you use that as an analogy for something else? Hey, it's the unexpected. What you thought was going to happen didn't happen. And you can turn around and relate that back. So finding those little things that happen in daily life. And one of my little pro tips that I use with that is name your stories. That one is literally my spider, run babies run. I will never forget that story because I gave it that name, and it's going to bring that image of that a moment back up in my head. And when it feels right to share that story in some setting, I'm going to pull it out of my back pocket and have it to share. So it's just daily life. It really is daily life. And if it like I said, if it shocked you, or if it made you have a little giggle, or if you were in stitches, it's something to test out and work on telling other people. Now, if you have so many stories, because that would be me, I have umpteen million. So there again, to organize them, to find, I am so sorry, I have my phone in the other room and then my watch went off. You would know, apologize. Hopefully you didn't hear it. I told you it rang, sorry. It's really about finding a handful of really good stories, 4 or 5 maybe, or depending me, because I'm skilled at it, I can have 10, 20 stories just hanging out in my back pocket and I can go pull them out when they feel right. But I will also adjust, like new things happen, new things pop up, like the spider story that I think is funny, that I find humorous, that I would want to share. A year from now, I might not tell that story at all because it's old news to me. So I'm onto something else. But again, I go back to the titling of them because that will help you remember them. And then get it in your head. Practice that story. How can you tell that story depending on the situation? If you're on stage speaking and it's part of your signature talk, keep that story under 3 minutes. If you're in a networking moment or maybe even a sales call. Maybe you're using it for some sales call that you're on. Keep that under, 1 to 2 minutes. Like, keep them short. And then if the conversation, which should happen, hopefully, if you open that conversation up, then maybe you can expand on the story, but to begin with, keep it pretty concise.
I love that. And that makes so much sense too, because, you really do, like you said, you have to be aware of the surroundings, the situation, kind of what's going on when you're having conversations. One of my favorite icebreakers, especially when it's online, is my fish tank. That is like, for anyone that doesn't know how to have a conversation with me, I guarantee you, because they're uncomfortable, that's the first thing that they ask me. Oh, I see you have a fish tank. What's in your fish tank? And I'm like, well, you see, there's an axolotl, and the people are like, I'm sorry, what is that?
Have
I'm like,
fun?
oh, I do. He's hiding in the back corner.
Oh, okay. I say I'm all like leaned in.
He may come out and make an appearance. Usually he does during my podcast interviews, but but I have a lot of people that look at me and they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's an underwater dragon. That's my little underwater dragon. But it is a total icebreaker. It's a total conversation starter. I had one guy that actually was like, oh my God, you have what? And I was like, yeah, I have a lot of interesting things at my house. That's just one of them. And he was like, I have to show you mine. He had like this little mini fish tank that was next to his desk. It had little shrimp in it. It was the cutest thing. But it's so funny because it starts so many conversations. Or when I tell people that I have a small zoo at my house, but not the traditional zoo that you would think, because I have stingrays and koi fish and a snake. And anyway, so, but I love that, you talk about that, because that is who I am. That is a part of who I am, what I do, and all the things. And to be honest, especially when I'm looking for my ideal client, I want there to be some piece of relatability, right? If you are, let's see, a single person in their 40s that has never had children, that's never really been around a lot of people, that enjoys like kind of their introvertedness, I may not be it for you, because I can be a little high energy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's understanding who you want to attract to you. And I want the people that do have a family life or have a business and personal life that they'd like to integrate together, right? I do want to talk with people that love the outdoors, right? I could talk all day about hiking in different places and stuff like that, or people that love to travel. And so, like you were saying, and you were talking about learning how to tell your stories so that you can fit them in with your business. I think of my stories in that regard. What stories can I tell? Can I talk about either on my lives or in certain things that people are going to connect with and are going to want to speak to me more, just because of the weirdness that I provide, because it just is what it is, right? Like, I love talking about how I got married in a cave. And I have so many people like, you did what? And I'm like, yeah, no, full wedding in a cave with a sword arch and the whole 9 yards, like Lord of the Ring themed, so much fun kind of a thing, and I'm sure some people are like, nerd.
What that does is it also triggers things in other people. Cause now I'm sitting here going, ooh, second marriage for me. Y'all, I've done that too many times. But anyway, I'm single now and I don't know if I'll ever marry again, but anyway. But the second one, we got married on a pirate boat. With just us and our then boys, which were actually the same age. We both had a son that were the same age. And so, yeah, it was just us and a bunch of freaking people we didn't know, because the captain with some serious ear hair, no offense to anyone that has that, but is never in my life have I seen so much ear hair. And I'd forgotten that story. I totally had kind of forgotten it. And you said about getting married in the cave. And I'm like, oh, I got married on the water on a pirate boat with kids with play swords. Yeah.
And that is fantastic.
Yeah.
That makes it even better.
Yeah. But it's interesting. And that's absolutely where it opens up. And now I'm like, oh, knowing what you have in your fish tank, because my oldest son and my daughter-in-law are huge with aquarium stuff. And anyways, they don't like me to share too much about them. So I won't, but we've had some interesting stuff in our household, and me, the spider freak, as well as my daughter-in-law, we like tarantulas, and jumping spiders. So yes, when you connect with people, because you share those things, or not to bring the Jeep up again, but again, Jeep people connect.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a thing. You're in the crowd or whatever. I'm kind of not, since I don't have the Wrangler, but anyway, It's still, you connect. I'm being attacked by a violent fly, but it's just interesting, and you do connect more with your people. Now, I will also say this: sometimes we will want to connect with someone that is the opposite of us, or at least quite different. Like, a lot of people like to connect with me because they kind of borrow, quote unquote, my big energy, and that's been said to me. And on the store thing, because that pops into my head, I have a couple of dear friends that work in the store, and they're not people, they're not social butterflies like me, but it doesn't take much for me to walk up to them and get them to be like wiggling around and dancing with me. It just doesn't take much. But that's my personality, and I took some time to work on them, but now we have such a bond that, so sometimes you just are like, oh, but I want to go talk to Kat, or I want to go talk to Jaycie because I can borrow some of their energy today and it's going to make me feel. And or maybe we need somebody that can calm us down when we have such big energy. We're like, I need somebody to settle me, to ground me, because I'm like over here.
That's my husband sometimes. So, and then sometimes it's the opposite, and I'm like, okay, time out. Time out, babe. Just, I love you. Time out. I love that you brought that up though, because I think it's smart, not only for the person that is looking to talk and connect with other people, but for those that are like, I would like to go outside my comfort zone a little bit, and I don't necessarily know how. Go find someone that is the opposite of you. Okay, maybe not like total opposites, but like you said, if you see that they kind of have bigger energy and you're like, I really like, if I felt like that a little bit more, maybe I could talk to a few more people, or maybe it would get me out of this funk, or whatever the case may be. I totally agree with that. I know that a lot of my clients, like, that's one of the reasons why they enjoy working with me, is because a lot of them don't have boundaries set, and I give them that confidence to be able to start setting it. It's like that validation that we're all craving, but it's in a way that feels aligned, and not, I'm looking for you to validate so I can do something I probably shouldn't, right? Like, I love that you say that it's borrowing somebody's emotions, their feelings and stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of people need that. A lot of people crave that. And, talking about telling your stories and stuff like this, a thought that popped up in my head as well is, we're talking about entrepreneurs, and a lot of entrepreneurs are service-based. However, I would like to bring this to the forefront. If you run a small business or you sell physical items, you can still differentiate your company from others because of who you are, because of your personality, right? Like, that stands out. For instance, those that are realtors. Okay, we all do the same thing, right? We buy and we sell homes and we help people. But if you can bring your energy into it, or your personality, that's totally different, and it separates you from what a lot of people would say, well, everybody's doing the same thing. How are they going to recognize me? Well, this is a great way for people to recognize you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. On the realtor one, I just saw on, I think it was a TikTok. I don't know how it pops up in your FYI. FYI, no, For You page, Jaycie. Anyways, FYI. Anywho, but yeah, is some guy, and I don't know where he's, Florida, maybe. I don't know where he is. But he goes through and he just does like this funny stuff with it when he's like supposedly showing a house, but it gets him out there, and it's a very different way. I used to own a bowling center and a bar too, by the way. So I've done so many
just got tons of stories.
I have done a lot, but that's not, I mean, it's kind of service based, but we also had a pro shop in there. So there's obviously items, food, beer, liquor, whatever. And then the pro shop items, and then just having tournaments, and as well as the league bowlers. And this was many years ago actually now. But so there's this piece that comes through with the personality as well. Absolutely. Now, he came from a small town, but people knew who we were. Or my studio, there were 4 other dance studios in my little tiny town of only 10,000 people. We only had 100,000 people in our county. So I grew up in a fairly small area, but people quickly knew who I was. And here I was, this 18, 19-year-old kid starting a business. And my classes were packed out within 2 years, full. But was I good at teaching what I was teaching? Yes, I was. Yeah. And I always learned more, and I always reinvested in my business, constantly putting money into her, because I knew I was making it better all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the bond that I built with the students, which ranged in age over the years from about 18 months, 2 years old, to 75 years old. So I had a big gap in the ages of people I worked with, but people knew who I was. And it was not just like the stories, right? But just the personality, there's the playfulness, the fun, because, okay, let me share this. When you laugh, we actually have those feel good hormones released: oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. They're released. When that happens and someone has made you feel that way, you want to go be around them again. You want to watch them again. You want to listen to them again, because you feel better. Laughter and sex aren't even that far off, because it's the same hormones that get released. It feels good. You want to go do it again most of the time, right? So yeah, anyway, but so that's what you want to be able to get out there and make people feel good. They enjoy being around you. I guess that's popping into my head too. It's like, maybe that's why sex sells as far as marketing and advertising, but that is not my point here. It's just my ADHD brain, y'all. It is about
side quest.
I know, right? I'm like, yeah, I digress. So it's about bringing things that will help them relate to you, bring you, show that you are down to earth. Hopefully you are, that you're humble, but things that make them chuckle or have a smile. It just makes them feel warm and fuzzy. It makes them feel better, because then they want that feeling again. And it makes them more confident to go do whatever it is they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Because being able to share our vulnerable stories and share the funny stories. What if nobody laughs? Because if you do happen to be in front of a crowd of people that aren't really your people, yeah, they're probably not going to laugh. They might not, it is what it is. It happens. So we ultimately have that fear of rejection. And so it is a little scary, even if we're extroverted like I am now. It's still a little scary to go, well, what if everybody thinks I look like an idiot? And it's like, well, oh, well. And it takes time to get where you can be at that point and go, oh, well, they weren't my people. I still feel stupid for the moment, but they're not my people. I just go over here. It'll be fine. Get in front of my people. And then you find your people. The other thing I want to say on that, and I need to shush so you talk again. Oh my God. So we not only want to attract our people, right? We absolutely want to attract the right people, but we want to repel the people that don't make sense for us, because they're not good clients for us. We're not going to feel good working with them. We're going to dread it, whatever. And then guess what? They're not going to get good results because they're not clicking with us. So guess what happens when people are upset and disgruntled? They talk more, unfortunately, than the people that love us. So it takes the reputation down versus, connecting with the people that absolutely just rave about you. Yeah. Those are the people that you want to attract. So be who you are, and don't be afraid for people to go, ew. For me, like, next.
I love that you brought that up too, because that was going to be the next thing I wanted to touch base on and just kind of remind everybody is you make, excuse me, you make your life so much easier when you flow with who you are. Because then you don't have to put this persona on. You don't have to try to be a specific personality, and you're attracting people that align with who you are naturally, which makes them a good client most of the time, right? Versus if you came in, you're completely suited up and that's not who you are, but you're trying to be a business professional, and you get these high regarded business professionals, but like with no personality, it's going to be really hard. And then in my personal opinion, because I did this for years, it's exhausting because it's not who you are. So then you come home and you're like, oh, I just want to go take a nap. And it's not because your day was that tiring, but it's because you physically put your body into this person, this persona, this box that you feel like will be accepted by everyone. And the body and the brain get tired of that. One of my favorite quotes that I recently heard was from Jim Carrey. And he said, depression is not that the body is just sad. He said, depression is there to tell you, I am tired of being the person you are trying to make me be. And so therefore, I don't want to play this role anymore. And so you become exhausted, you become fatigued, and you become sad because you're hiding who you are. I love Jim Carrey. I love the things he talks about. But I want to bring that to his attention because you made such a valid point that you really do have to pay attention to that. Because if you're going through your day and you come home and you're like, I'm just so tired and I had to be this person and da 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 da, you should probably think about that, because I guarantee you could enjoy your day just a little bit more if you were able to kind of build yourself and your personality into the things that you are doing. And like you said, it repels the
Yes.
people that we do not want.
Well, and I want to point out two things that are popping into my head here. One, if you're going to go on some speaking engagement, you have a signature talk you're doing, or you've got some workshop you're leading, and you think that to look professional, you have to wear the dress slacks or the dress or the whatever, suit and tie kind of idea. Don't get me wrong, I've done that in the past. When I've been in front of a big networking event and had to do whatever presentation, I don't off the top of my head remember now. But now I don't do that anymore. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't care if I am in a major big company, which I don't normally go do corporate events, but it wouldn't matter. This Gen Xer is going to walk in her ripped jeans and her t-shirt and with my hats showing, because that's who I am. I'm going to show who I am, because again, repel those that don't work. And then those like, oh my God, yes, please. Thank you. Also, what makes sticking out in my mind also today is that here I am in the t-shirt, right? And which I know you can't see, it says imperfectly or perfectly imperfect on my shirt, but you're in a tank top. We're comfortable because this is who we are. We're not faking it today with, I got a dress blouse on, which is fine for people that feels right. That's perfect for them. That's not me. And clearly, Kat, you're not wanting to sit here in a frilly, blouse either. It's not us.
I dress up occasionally, but usually it's like casual, cute, right? That's who I am. I like that. I still have the slacks and the stuff for certain things, but yeah, I would prefer to be cute and comfy versus sweating and dying and uncomfortable because I can't move my arms.
I think the more, because I'm 53, y'all. So when I hit 50, it's like, I swear, the day of my birthday, it was like a switch just flipped. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm going to do my thing, be my way. And that's just where I was at. And I had just left a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And so lots of changes happened. And I don't want to say I don't care, because I do. We all care if people reject us or about us.
Of course.
But at the same time, I'm like, no, this is who I am. And I need to be attracting the right people on a consistent basis. Because as a former dancer, right, having been on stage my whole life, what do? Those of us that's been in theater or danced or what, you put stage makeup on. You put a little heavier makeup on. That is the only thing, side note, that I did today, because I'm on camera. I have lipstick on, which I never wear.
Sexy.
Hey, baby. I'm not like a dork, but anyway, but I don't have any heavier makeup on than I normally wear. I don't wear much makeup. Lipstick on adds a little color so I don't look so washed out. But when we're on stage, especially if we're doing someone else's choreography or if we're acting, we're playing a role. We have a mask on. So when we're in the studio or wherever, since I danced, that's my go-to. It's different. We don't look the same. We're sweating, blood, sweat, and tears, y'all. It's practice. It's work. I trained in jiu-jitsu. You get jiu-jitsu hair. So I love that. I miss it. But anyway, so you just have to embrace who you are. Here's a little deep thing to think about, though. You, in my opinion, cannot be uber confident if you don't like yourself, let alone love yourself. You have to dig deep and do the personal growth work to like who you are. And if you get that far, you need to love who you are. Doesn't mean you're arrogant, doesn't mean you're cocky, doesn't mean you're not going to continue to grow and change. Listen to people's feedback. If you keep getting the same feedback that maybe you need to work on something, okay. But it's really about that space first. We have to be happy. I wrote this down this morning because I'm in a mastermind program, and I was working on it early, like 5 o'clock this morning. I was working on it, and that was part of it. And so that was just, it wasn't even part of it. Somehow I ended up writing that out, but I was writing, you have to be happy within first.
Yeah.
Then you can emanate that. Then you can exude that out to other people. And that's when you can share that entertainment value easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And, as we're coming to a close, I always ask my guests, do you happen to have a quote or a piece of advice that you'd like to leave the audience with? I feel like that was phenomenal. However, if you have another quote or piece of advice you'd like to leave the audience with, I'd love to give you the chance to share.
Pay attention to all the little things in your daily life. When you're looking for what I call the back pocket stories, pay attention to the little spider moments or the moment where I went, oh my gosh, there's cops everywhere. What's happening? And you see a car that is driven up on a boulder and you're like, what? Because you can turn that into a story that can be related to your business. So pay attention, because truly there are stories all around us. They're not always something that directly happened to us. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be the funny one. We just have to know how to take that story that we saw or experienced and share it in a way that has an entertainment value. And then when we're wanting to, how do we connect it back and make it an analogy to something with what we do in the world? We don't always have to do that, but so pay attention. That's the short of that. Pay attention to daily life, because that's what's going to connect you to other people.
Oh, I love that. Such a great reminder, as well as, we all live in a society where we're constantly zooming all over the place. So Jaycie, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the podcast today. Thank you so much for sharing your energy and your information and your stories and all the things. Do us all a favor and tell everybody, where can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can they be in your world?
Oh my gosh. So if you want to work on your stories, and I know this is the big no-no, I'm going to heads up. We always say, don't tell people 2 places to go. Give them 1. They'll be confused. But if you want to work on your stories, then go to storytellingrebel.com, because I'm the storytelling rebel. It's really, you can find me. I've got Stories on Fire coming out. So we're working on that program. But if you're like, wait, what's the podcast? We want to hear more funny stories. We want to hear more of Jaycie and the other people that she has sit around her virtual kitchen table. Then go to cartwheelsandbananapeels.com. Now that is also on pretty much anywhere you can find it on podcasts. It's out there. It's on YouTube, but Cartwheels and Banana Peels. Because from there you can find me.
I just love it. I love the name of that. And of course, everybody will have all that information in the show notes, so you can easily click and follow Jaycie and connect with her all over the place. So again, Jaycie, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. I had so much fun.
You're so welcome. And to everybody else out there, I hope you got a great laugh. I hope you learned to loosen up a little bit. And I hope you got some storytelling pieces that you can walk away with, as I'm sure you're thinking of some things that you've been through or seen that you can now use as analogies. So I hope you had a great laugh. It's always good for all of us. And don't forget, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.